Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 401. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Yep, this is one too many.
What, 400 was the perfect amount?
Yep.
All right. All right, I guess we'll just quit then. All right. this is the epilogue episode, I guess. Welcome everyone. It's DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about DC books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, quieter week. Well, it was for me anyway. Matt read a bunch of things I didn't read, so I hope you like hearing Matt talk, because today we got Detective Comics 1083, The Flash issue 7, Matt read Green Arrow issue 10, we'll be talking about Penguin issue 8, Amazon's Attack issue 6, and then Matt read Power Girl issue 7, and he also, because he's a caricature of himself, went back to a book from last week that he wanted to get to, and that is the Ape-ril Special issue 1.
Yes.
So, fun. I actually have even less books next week, which is why I left my Patreon books for next week. I got 3 whole books next week.
Dang.
I know, DC, they need to pump in some books.
So I haven't looked, but if you only have 3, I guarantee you'd have 7.
Nah, week ones have been really light for a while. So either way, we're here, we'll have fun, we'll talk about stuff. There's a bit of news to talk about, and obviously the normal top 10 stuff. Before we get into anything though, Matt, how's your week been?
It's been pretty okay. The weather's not cooperating. It's been real windy. My allergies have been acting up. But I watched a whole lot of kaiju movies.
Yeah, I suddenly felt very uncomfortably warm last Sunday. It went back to the same, more or less mildly cold that it had been before right after that. But there was one day it was like, oh no, spring's starting to creep in a little bit, like just a day here or there. So I feel like I'll be on shorts again soon. I'm not quite there yet, but we're gearing up for it.
Yeah, no, ours is just the wind and the rain. It's been a combo. So then the wind kicks up all the pollen and stuff. And then just the rain comes in, and it's just terrible.
Yeah, Joe, it's taken me years, like literally years and years to notice this. But I think it's related to switching to spring, is that my shins get itchy around this time every year. And it's only just the last couple of years that I've kind of noticed that, oh wait, it's always the same time of year. I never noticed that before.
So is it like you think something's because you're wearing shorts? Or is this even wearing pants?
That's I'm not wearing shorts yet. I think it's just something
weird.
So
yeah, I would get if you were wearing, you got out there freeing the knee and your shins are now
exposed
free.
outside, but no.
Yeah. So
I can only assume it's some sort of small.
It's almost like you're getting stir crazy from being inside all winter, and your legs are aching for movement.
Nah, I go walks. I mean, I get plenty of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit less than winter, but still, it's still.
Yeah. How often does it snow where you are?
Oh, like maybe twice a year.
Okay, so yeah.
Not much.
So it's just cold. So yeah, you can bundle up.
Cold, wet. In January, it might be frosty. It gets frosty in January, but
gotta watch the ice.
Yeah. So but yeah, no, I had a busy week. I had to move some movie recording, podcast recordings because of upcoming vacations for other people. So I had extra things to do. I had to go to the movies twice this week. Both of which were for movies with the word Empire in the title, and both had villains that wanted to freeze things. It was really surreal in terms of pairing.
Very, very weird.
But yeah, so a bit hectic, but nothing bad, I guess. Well, Ghostbusters wasn't good, but nothing bad at a personal level.
I still need to see it. I need doing a lot of work there.
Yeah, needs a bit
I still have a desire to see it, but outside of my one friend that's very invested in Ghostbusters, I haven't heard too much. Like, hey, yeah, it's worth a theater visit. So,
I mean, it's not the worst thing you'll ever see, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not particularly good either. It's kind of a mess in a lot of ways, but I don't know. It's a weird movie. But hey, no.
It's been giving us Ernie Hudson memes. Can you believe this man is damn near 80?
Yeah, I know. He's looking in better shape at 79 than I am at 34. It's really quite something. So
that's funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, we get it. We've got the top 10, formerly known as the ComiXology top 10, but is now the Kindle ranking top 10 or whatever we're calling it.
Ways.
Nothing's quite stuck name-wise yet. Something will eventually. I'll think of something catchy. But we'll do it Tuesday first. Matt, you got a guess for what is currently ranked number 1 for Tuesday's books?
Let's see. Nothing's really striking as a book that would come in hot. So I'm going to go against Judgment and say Green Arrow.
That is incorrect.
Yeah, of course. Tech hasn't been really selling. I don't know what to go because this is an odd assemblage of books. There's nothing that sticks out as a number 1. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a guess.
It's Batman Dark Age issue 1.
Okay, of course.
Is an issue 1. Does say Batman in the title.
Yeah.
Should have went for it. Number 2 is Detective Comics. Number 3 is Green Arrow. Number 4 is Flash. 5 is Alan Scott Green Lantern. 6 is The Penguin. 7 is Batman Brave and the Bold. 8 is Amazon's Attack. 9 is Power Girl. And 10 is Primer, which is notable because that still beat Harley Quinn, which came out at number 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I forgot Primer existed. I feel kind of bad because I probably would have tried it had I remembered it.
Yeah.
It, was a thing. Yeah. So, yeah. Harley on digital just is always at the bottom of the rankings. Sometimes it will be under trades even. Not this week, but it does happen. Yeah. So, cool. Wednesday though, we got a wider range of books. Matt, you got a guess for Wednesday?
Well, there's a new X-Men book, but it's a tie-in, so I'm not sure how well that would sell digitally. There's like an event X-Men book, and there's also not a new Ultimate, but an Ultimate book. So I'm gonna go with Ultimate Spider-Man 3.
That is correct. That is number 1. 2 is Rise of the Powers of X. 3 is X-Force. 4 is Wolverine. Plenty of X-Men choices here, but it sounds a bit mad.
Yeah. Well, I always look for number 1s first, right?
Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah.
Number 5 is Gods, issue 6. Number 7 is Duke, which I think is tied to that whole Transformers G.I. Joe verse. We got X-Men 97, issue 1 at number 7. 8 is Amazing Spider-Man. 9 is Cable. And 10 is Daredevil. Again, every time I see Amazing Spider-Man selling under some of these other books, I'm like, why? How did they do that? Something's messed up there. But there's other stuff like Incredible Hulk's number 11. So there's other big books that just aren't making the top 10 on Wednesday.
So Gods is that Hickman book, right?
Hickman, yeah.
So that makes sense why that's up there.
There's a Thunderbolts book at number 15, which, do you know, I saw a headline this week for the Thunderbolts movie, and it said the title's been changed, it took me several minutes looking at both titles to see what had changed, because it was not obvious. It still says Thunderbolts. The change is that there's now an asterisk at the end of the word.
What, did it cheat and can't get into the Hall of Fame? Like, what's...
Like, I sat there for minutes looking at, like, it's spelled the same. The spelling's the same. What? Nothing's changed. What are they talking about?
Everything is news, so that means nothing is news. All right, what are we doing?
Who's doing the catering? That's what I want to know. That's what we need hot news on the catering for the Marvel movie. Is
good lord.
Florence Pugh getting, was it mac and cheese? Is that what she liked in Hawkeye? I can't remember. I think it was mac and cheese.
Yeah, I can't remember either. And I liked Hawkeye, but
I was very lukewarm on it, unsurprisingly.
Yes.
So, all right, there you go. That's the top 10. So yeah, there was one bit of news actually. Not an official announcement as of yet, but artist Travis Mercer was teasing stuff on his Twitter. He was posting basically kind of like character designs and stuff for a new book. and did not reveal what the book was exactly, but did reveal a bunch of characters that seemingly are going to be in the book, and did also mention that Jeremy Adams, who is currently on Green Lantern, had been doing Flash for a long time, is going to be the writer of the book. It seems to be a young team book, and we have a host of characters here. We got Fair Play and Quiz Kid, who's the Golden Age, like,
yep,
Mr. Terrific sidekick.
He was Terry, whatever his name, sidekick.
Yeah, we got Animal Girl, Maxine, right? So we got her. We have Wally's kids, Thunder, Heart, and
Surge.
Thank you. Yeah, the one that sounds like a drink. And then this surprising one to go with this, which is interesting because it's like a evolution, because now she's like the old one who's going to be like presumably the leader, taking care of all the kids. Is Stephanie Brown was the other character in this lineup. So this feels like a interesting new like Young Justice team with Stephanie Brown as the sort of the older mentor, which not that she's an old character by any means, but she's older compared to these kids.
Yeah. I mean, she's probably around Tim Drake's age, right? So she's probably early 20s at this point. So, yeah, that definitely puts her in mentor status.
Yeah, she'll be like 22, and then all these kids will be like between 10 and 13 or something.
Yeah, because Maxine and the West kids they're not in high school yet, and I don't know how old Fair Play and Quiz Kid are meant to be.
No idea.
So, yeah. But yeah, no, I saw this on Twitter. And it definitely got some stuff going because I've liked what Adams has done with some of these characters. So the fact that he's writing, Maxine and the West kids again makes me very
that's
excited.
what stuck out to me is that he wrote those three characters a lot in his Flash run already, so it felt like a natural. Obviously, the terrific sidekicks are an addition, and so is Steph, but half these characters he has written before, and it felt like he was building up that friendship between Maxine and Ray, like he was kind of he was the one to initially develop it, so it feels like a natural fit for him to take that forward in this book. I mean, it's kind of nice that the current Flash runs also acknowledged it and has brought it up a few times, but it makes sense that Adams is the one to take it into the next stage. So consider me excited, and I don't think I could have told you who Travis Mercer's art was from the top of my head, but these designs that he's put on Twitter do look quite nice. So I'm consider me excited. I'm game. Whatever this is going to be called. Is it going to be called something like Young Justice? Or, I mean, my guess would be it's probably going to be a new name that hasn't been used before.
I feel like without, with Cass in there, it now makes it, not Cass, I'm sorry, Stephanie in there, it makes it feel not like a Young Justice team. And having so many JSA characters, I'm wondering if they're going to roll like with All-Star Squadron, on that.
Yeah. Like I could see them taking that or a Young Justice name, but if I was to place a bet, and I could be wrong, I would think this will be like when the Terrifics was made, where it's like, it's just a new name, it's a new moniker that's not been used before. But they could totally use like an old title like that. It wouldn't surprise me. My only thinking is maybe they think that sounds a bit too old school, so they're going to want to have something.
Yeah, because I remember when there was the two JSA books, and one was JSA, which was Justice Society of America, and then the other one was JSA All Stars, right? And it was like the legacy characters were Stargirl and
actually, Joe, they can call it. They'll call it Gen Alpha, and then Steph's the Zoomer, who's like their mentor.
So the whole time it's just kids on iPads.
Which. Yeah, I mean, because, given their ages, they would be in those generations. Now, obviously, Steph technically is a millennial because she was, basically my age in the 2000s when she was doing all of her earlier stories. But obviously, comics time, as always, moves at weird paces to, keep the characters at a reasonable age for a long time. But regardless, it is what it is.
No, it's very exciting, though, because, again, Adams has built up a sense of trust so far between his Flash run and now Green Lantern, the Jay Garrick Flash book as well. Honestly, he handles team dynamics pretty well, so I'm curious to see where this goes.
Honestly, the kids were probably my favorite thing about his Flash run. Like, I really like that stuff. So, consider me on board. Obviously, I'd have tried it anyway, but like I'm actively excited for this now. That sounds like a fun lineup, or a fun addition to the lineup. So
Yeah.
cool. Hopefully, that's something. I mean, if he's teasing it now, hopefully that means we get a solicit for it in the next batch, or maybe in the next couple of batches. So probably a summer book, if I was to guess, but who knows? It could be early. For all we know, they're at the early stages, and they're not even going to solicit until it's like, I don't know, like the October solicit or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, but that is the one bit of news this week, is this potential new book, but it seems to be happening. It would be very upsetting if it just never came out now. Like, oh no, I got cancelled before they even finished an issue, and now we're just all left with blue balls.
Adam, so I follow him on Twitter, and he posted this. I can't wait to announce this. And then I refreshed my Wi-Fi 3 times because it was just like a prank. Like, he had just put up a blank, it looked like a loading page, and stuff. And so I feel like that was him teasing that they got something coming, you know. But yeah. This came out like a couple days later.
Yeah, I'm sure it's imminent. I mean, I can see it not being the next solicit. I can see it being like maybe a little further out, but probably not too far.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, there you go. That was the one bit of news. Exciting news, though. I have nothing but positive things to say about it. So, moving on, we got books to talk about. I guess that's what's up next.
Yeah.
So, Detective Comics. Up first here.
1083.
1083 indeed. I didn't have that tab up, so thank you for giving me the
You're
number.
welcome.
Ram V writing with Riccardo Federici and Stefano Rafael on art. And I could have swore there was a third artist, but Leah Comic Geeks was not telling me about a third artist, and the cover didn't have a third artist on it. So
yeah.
My guess is that we had a different colorist maybe on one of the artists, because the last section looked different. There's a difference at the end, but we'll get to that. So this kind of wraps up Bruce Wayne's sort of desert trip, his in his mind where he's fighting his inner demons stuff. That comes to an end, and he's back in Gotham by the end of this issue. What did you think of the wrap up to this segment of the run?
So I liked it a lot. It kind of reestablished Ram V's take on Batman, and so it kind of gets him beyond the I need to be there for Gotham, and it is at the end of the day, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And I think that really pushes Batman forward, because, we always get all these stories about him doing this job so no one ends up like him. And that gets so tired. So the fact that Ram V took this, had Bruce go on this inner turmoil journey to get to a place where now he's, kind of where Batman should be. I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of the beats that are in here. He's talking to these other characters in this fake version of Gotham, and ultimately is even when he's faced with this evil version of Batman, and he's literally handed a stick of dynamite, he refuses to use it against the evil Batman, which makes the Dr. Hurt, who I think is just the Dr. Hurt in his head, it's not actual Dr. Hurt. Is disappointed in him, and it keeps coming back to this idea of him letting the anger, the demon take over and sort of give in to either the thing that Dr. Hurt's always wanted him to be, or the asthma, which is also fighting for control. And I think the build up to him coming out of this, I do think the art change worked quite well actually, because the art change told me that he came out of it. It was actually the biggest sign in the page that something had changed. And obviously there's many comics where they have to get a second artist to finish some pages, and it's just awkward, and it's not actually for a creative reason. This felt like no, the art is telling me that we're outside of his head now, and we're in the real desert, and he's walking up to deal with Tally and Pink Flamingo, who are having a spat.
Yeah, really the only thing that transfers over from the dream world to the real world is that his cape is kind of swirling around like it has a mind of its own, right? And then mostly that's to cover what I assume is naked Bruce, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's literally doing that. I think that's just the artist's, interpretation of it kind of thing.
Right, and so I do like that. So when you go from the Federici page, there on the bottom as he's fighting Barbados, and the cape is just kind of taking up that whole lower panel. And then you turn the page, and now it's, it almost looks like Spawn's cape, where it has all these tendrils and stuff coming off of it. It's a really effective way to transition the art.
And I'm going to assume as well that when Barbados is trying to talk him into sort of giving in to like the more demonic Batman side of himself,
yeah.
I assume you were a big fan of the fact that he straight up brings up his belief in Superman as one of the inspirations for never sort of giving in.
Yeah, it was along the same lines in last week's Wonder Woman, where they view each other as that triangle, where the two see the third one similarly. And this is, that enforces Bruce's thought of you can be this all-powerful person but still be rooted in your humanity. And I like that he uses the alien as the reminder of what it means to be human.
Yeah, but he talks about how he understands him better than his own demons. Like, Superman understands Batman in a way that even Barbados inside his own head doesn't seem to understand him. So, because Batman and Superman do both have that kind of like the ideals that they won't break from. Superman will never snap and kill someone, and neither will Batman. And despite all the other differences they might have, that fundamental's always there. So it is nice for him to bring up that friendship and like bring up someone he knows like that as a the close up on the mouth as well. And he's almost smiling, through his teeth as he says it too, which I really like. So no, it's all just a fun bit. It's basically building up to one of these classic Batman moments that a lot of Batman comics get to have, whether it's a No Man's Land, whether it's when he came back after R.I.P. It's the when Batman gets back to Gotham moment. Hell, even Dark Knight Rises, the movie example, had it, which is how do you treat that big moment? And we actually go back to, obviously we've been having this running plot in Gotham with Montoya's question. In this issue, it's about her sort of trying to prove that Siobhan is behind the murder of those other detectives, but she's going to need like really concrete proof to convince everyone because they all want to believe the lies. The way she puts it is that if you take away the symptoms that something was wrong, and Batman effectively was a symptom that something wasn't right in Gotham, it's like there was never anything wrong in the first place, so it's really easy for a lot of people to buy into the lie. And when she's trying to get Gordon on board to like help expose and use the evidence she's found, this firing squad, this kill squad from Sauvage shows up and is ready to kill them. So the final page is the big like Batman crash landing on the cars, all the bats are swarming. He's back in Gotham and he's ready to brood and do Dark Knight things.
I liked what they were doing here too, with the whole idea of that the question was the person that was able to poke through because of the way that Montoya and questions even before her look at what's wrong in society, and they're kind of they're the ones asking the question. So she was kind of onto the things like what is exactly not right, and when she starts peeling back all those layers, she's like, well, I can't be the one to bring this up because people aren't going to believe me, this faceless person, and I can't exactly, this wasn't exactly legally obtained information, so it has to come from somewhere else. So I do like all of that the question has to remain in the shadows, and that's how you get Gordon back in.
Yeah, I mean, looking at those final pages in the desert before the last scene, after it switches from Federici, I guess it's just Rafael doing those pages to indicate that in this storyline, Rafael's been doing the real world, which has primarily been Gotham, and it caught me off guard because we're in the desert with that art style. It does look a little bit different from the Gotham stuff, but it definitely looks a lot more like Rafael than it does Federici, that's for sure.
Yeah, the lines are a bit heavier than they are in the Gotham stuff.
Yeah.
So, but maybe that's just to indicate the harshness of the desert or whatever, Yeah,
that could just
some
be
personal styling.
That could be Raphael just sort of like intentionally drawing differently for a very different scene because it's not in Gotham and it's not the same type of scene. But
yeah, because they don't have an inker listed, so he's definitely inking his own stuff. It would seem.
That makes sense.
So that would make sense to draw emphasis there.
Yeah.
But I really do love how that when he overtakes the flamingo, and it just looks like this shroud of blackness blotting out the sun. It's very what's the word? The idea of Batman personified right here in the desert.
Mm. I also really like how all the stuff in Gotham is very strictly pretty much 9-panel grid stuff, aside from like the big splash page at the end. It really sells this idea of the real world's all structured and ordered, but all the stuff in his head that he's fighting in the desert's all a lot more, misshapen. It's a lot more of a weird order, well, not weird order, but like weird box sizes and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to play with there, right?
Yeah.
A lot more free flowing. That page too. It's all the blue on it. It's after he won't blow up the evil Super Batman, the big hulking guy, and just all that blue and how the panels bleed into each other. Like they have like these little smoke like trails coming off of them, and the way that the asthma shows up in the shadows.
Oh yeah, the asthma, like sort of the monster coming through the smoke or the mist or whatever it is towards them, does look fantastic on that page.
Yeah,
Federici's just gorgeous art.
Very much. But it's how it gives way to like smoke from one panel to the other. So even like the top right panel, if you follow the smoke tendrils, they evenly down to one of the lower ones, and yeah, it's just it's not a mess though, because I don't want to say it's like this mess of a thing, because it's all very easy to read, but it is a little bit more free flowing than the full structure of the Gotham stuff.
Yeah, it's just got a less conventional layout to give it this more like erratic, dreamlike kind of quality.
Erratic, that's more of the word.
Yeah. I like that. I also just a small thing, but in the first stuff with Renee, when she's like basically talking about what's going on, and she's in sneaking like a clone of Shavod's phone while she's on TV in a talk show in Gotham, and I just like that Mir Nakano's there, because I like it's a small thing. He's not been around as much since this last year or so. But I do appreciate them sort of, we've got an established thing right now. This is the mayor. He's been the mayor of Gotham for like 3 years now. In real time anyway. I don't know how long it's been in universe, but... and
4 days. A lot has happened in Gotham.
Hey, with the amount of shit these superheroes have to go through, like, stuff has to happen that frequently. I think of all the things that Batman has done in his career. Like, he had to fight a different supervillain like every day of the week for most of his life, for everything to have happened. And that's even just counting from post-crisis. Never mind,
never mind the stuff beforehand.
Yeah, all the shit for decades and decades before that. So no, I appreciate just having that little bit of continuity in there, or that bit of mythology. It's a good issue. I think this and the last couple have been really solid. They've not been my favorite part of the run, I don't think, just because inherently comic books, like, a lot of writers like to do this where they'll get to an issue, an arc, where it's kind of in the character's head, and it's a great excuse for the artist to get to do wild things that aren't actually happening, and it's because everything's symbolic, everything's about examining who the character is. And I think I've seen enough of these types of stories in comic books at this point that I'm not like super pumped by them. Like I think I've seen enough of them where I can see when one's good, and this one is good, and it's fitting into the overall narrative to the story. But it made me more excited for what's coming next, and it made me think, oh, this part was great on its own, of thing.
Yeah, and we're ending the final act of Ram V's, of it, because he structured it like an opera, right? So now we're heading towards the finale of everything. All the pieces are in place, and that's really exciting. I also want to point out that the characters that right before all the Dynamite stuff happened with that big, evil Batman. Those 3 characters are the 3 from I think it was the annual that took place in the past in Old Gotham, like in the colonial days.
Oh, okay.
So I'm wondering what that's about. They again, it's not an accident that they named it, because I just remember the name Wainwright and Pierce. Those are the 2 that stood out. And because he says his name is Brutus Wainwright and Aldridge Pierce. And so I'm wondering if that's the reality engine as well at play. So it's kind of pointing to the fact that there's always these types of characters, and Bruce is, just one of them. It's the one that stands up, regardless of the Bat or whoever. So I'm curious to see if Ram V's going to follow up on those.
It could just be an indication that because he was around the reality engine in Gotham, that some of its history's kind of like
leached to him.
Yeah, just kind of like
Yeah.
attached to him, and he's seen like some glimpses or interpretations of it in his own psyche.
Yeah, because he's not seeing them in old Gotham. He's seeing them in this Gotham that never was.
Yeah.
You know, where he's taking complete control. You know, he's the full authoritarian version of Batman. So I thought that was curious to see. So maybe that type of stuff, because they thwarted the Orgums before in that annual.
Yeah, and it's one of them that has the dynamite as well. So it sort of shows how Batman is different from these past versions that might have been trying to resist. Yeah, that's a good catch. I would never have in a million years noticed that. So I mean, I did notice the name Brutus Wainwright did stick out to me, but not because I remembered it, just because it sounds like a different version of Bruce Wayne.
Like, yeah. It's a bit over, you know.
Brutus the Batman Wainwright.
Yeah. He still has the giant scissors, but they're batarangs. Anyway.
I'm trying to think of a Batman version of strutting and cutting, and I just can't think of one, so we'll move on. Solid issue. I think it wraps up this arc quite well. I have enjoyed it, but I am definitely excited to be back in Gotham and seeing how Batman actually takes back the city and how he, goes against the big bad, as it were. So, fun time. And as we mentioned, the art from Federici is beautiful. The art from Rafael is solid. It's really good. And the two styles obviously serve a purpose to separate the two different things that are happening. But the Federici stuff just really sticks out as being super pretty to look at. So, all right, Matt, what are you giving Detective Comics?
I'm going to give that an 8.5.
Yeah. Also, I'm just assuming you didn't read the backup.
No, I did read the backup.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I was going to rate just the main story since you were there, because it'll be quick to go over.
Yeah. I'll give it a solid 8, but if you want to talk about the backup for a minute.
Yeah. So the backup is the main character. Her name's Selma. That she claimed at the end of the last one that she was Dr. Hurt. And this whole escapade, this whole story comes around the fact that what Dr. Hurt's always trying to do is make versions of himself to populate the different realities, right? And so what he'll do is he'll put these people through trauma and then make them believe that they're Dr. Hurt, and then that gives him more control over, whatever reality they're in. And in fact, he reveals that this castle that they're in is as a sentient reality that he is fully taken over. It's a pocket sentient dimension, and that he uses it for all of his experiments. And he says this is always what happens at these. It's always the ones where that you can't destroy the ego, the ones that believe that they have a say in how things are going to shape out. So as she has the gun on Dr. Hurt, all of these like shadowy Dr. Hurts pop up and claim, that no, they're Dr. Hurt, and that ends up breaking that reality. She falls through, and then Hurt takes full control of the situation. And as he's talking to the last guy standing, the bald guy who was, pushing all of this, that led them to this house, this mansion. He starts asking him, why do I want to make so many? And he goes, oh, it's because you're evil. And he explains that he's anti-life, right? He's the anti-everything that's good and decent. And he stands for everything that's debauched and painful and sick. And at the end of the day, because of that, he has to destroy himself. So all of these experiments are him creating versions to destroy so he can become the ultimate adversary. And when he applauds him for figuring all this out, he goes, but you don't get it, but you will. And it's time to wake up. And the guy wakes up in like this military, like experimental room where he's on a bed, like a surgical bed. And he has all these wires hooked to him. He's strapped to a table. And they said that they had just got done running the simulation in the isolation chamber. And he starts freaking out. It almost becomes like a Twilight Zone ending where they asked him who was the doctor that was in charge of all of this. And he says, the guy goes, calm down. And he goes, "What's his name?" And it ends with the smile of Dr. Hurt. And this is all done with Jorge Fornes art, so it looks great. And it's Dan Waters writing, so it kind of gets a little like I feel like three issues here was a little bit much to tell this kind of story, but to kind of establish Hurt as kind of this threat that's ever present in Batman, right? Because he's almost shapeless and he can take any form because he represents all that Batman fights against. And that he'll, as long as there's people out there for him to infect their minds, he'll be there. It was okay. I'm glad it's over though, because again, trying to figure out where we left off was another thing, because the stories don't really make a big impression, and I'm sure it'll read great as all one unit when they throw it in the back of the collection.
Yeah, so, I looked at the first page and I'm like, wait, I feel like this is like not the first part of a story, and I don't think I read the last one.
Yep. But yeah, but the Fornes art looks fantastic. But once they started getting to sentient pocket dimensions, I was like, okay, this is some Doom Patrol stuff, and this is not Doom Patrol. So what are we doing? But I feel like because Dan Waters and Ram V work so close together, I do wonder if we're setting up for more Dr. Hurt stuff from Ram V.
It wouldn't surprise me, especially since obviously he's been brought up in the main story, even if it's not necessarily been
right, him in person.
Yeah,
right?
like so.
Yeah.
The idea of him has been brought up, so it makes sense that this is building to something.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. All right, next up, The Flash issue 7, Legacy number 807. This is Cy Spurrier writing with Ramon Perez on the art. So. Yeah, so this issue is mainly focused around Max Mercury and Bart Allen, who are in what they call the Icto. I kind of hated this name, actually, because when they explained what it was, like, oh, it's halfway between Tick and Talk, and if you look at Tick Talk, it's literally the end of one part and the start of the other.
Yeah, but you don't say Tick Toke, so it can't be Icto,
It'd be
it's Tick Talk. So it should be the Ikta, but yeah. But again, I appreciate what he's trying, right, to give us a different perspective on Flash, which I feel this entire run has done. It's giving us we're used to seeing Flash in 3D. This is at a complete fourth dimension to the Speed Force and everything. If all of this stuff can be believed, because now he's put the doubt in me about all of these, extra dimensional beings and whatnot. I don't know what to believe, and I think that's the point.
Yeah, it's such a weird run. Like every time I come to an issue of this, I feel like there's so many ideas that, and this issue almost feels like it's poking fun at the fact that it knows there's too many ideas, because we have this character pop back up. He saves Bart and Max Mercury, this Pilgrim character who, in short, says he's basically a time cop, but the future doesn't exist anymore. He's like trapped here. Like he could go backwards and forwards from the time of his birth to his death, and whenever that's going to happen. But now he can't go further than a few months ahead, and it's because the speedsters have done something to the way time works. And first of all, I think it's Wade, the baby.
That was me too.
As soon as he said to his birth, I'm like, well, whose birth have we had recently?
And he says that he was somebody that they know, just not know yet.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, he describes Gold Beetle as kind of family, which to me says, well, if Bart and her married in the future, then that would make her family. So
you mean Jay?
Sorry, Jay. Yeah, not Bart. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. The one who had the flirting in the future with her.
Yeah. And just the fact that he seemed to know Jay when he was talking to him in those previous issues.
Yes.
He was coming from a point of familiarity. That would check out as well, because that's his older brother. But yeah, the time cop that whole joke, that aspect of it was very funny. When he says this whole big, talks about like a cosmic spider and 3,000 hours of paradoxical math and all of this stuff, or if we want to roll the option to a time cop. And so I thought that was. That was worth the joke.
Yeah, and he basically explains a bunch of stuff to them and shows that he's got a bunch of speedsters in stasis. and they're basically trying to figure out what's going on, and that these arc angles, which have been brought up before, kind of gave a message to him, which kind of hinted at something. And it sounds like the solution was possibly to just kill a bunch of speedsters, and he's trying to do it a humane way by just capturing them and putting them in stasis until he can figure out what's going on. But as we're seeing here, with the sort of the subplots of the issue, Barry tries talking to Iris, and it's like Iris has had her mind messed with, where she's like just repeating herself and like sort of, you know, like they'll have a conversation and she'll just start it again with Barry, and she's acting kind of weird, a little bit creepy, where she's like,
yeah, you mean Linda? Sorry,
Linda. I'm saying the wrong names all over the place today.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. But she's acting kind of weird and saying not to worry. And Barry even says, I think someone's messing with her head somehow. But even Barry himself starts getting really, he goes to like try and get Pied Piper. He thinks Pied Piper's behind it because of the mind like element of it. He's like, oh, this must be him, and he's like, no, I've been a good guy for a long time. And then Mr. Terrific comes in and like sort of neutralizes Barry and says, yeah, he's fine. I'd know if he'd went bad. And then starts explaining that Wally's had this extra ability recently where he can kind of shift to a different frequency. And obviously we know, they keep saying, where is Wally? And we know where he is. We know that he's in that, you know, the, what did they call it? The garden, the garden, yeah, his inner peace place that he's been going to. And we eventually see him at the end of the issue, and it seems like an arc-angle has actually shown up to potentially, I don't know, so we may actually get him interacting with one next issue. But these are very heady concepts.
The gallery is what
the gallery, that's the one. The
creature that he's talking to, like the wispy, right? Because that's not supposed to be the arc-angle, right?
No, that's not the arc-angle, no. Yeah. No.
Because I had to reread this 3 times because I read this before bed and stuff wasn't making sense. And then I read it again with open eyes and it still didn't make that much sense. And then I gave it another reread, and then, you know. So
well, I think that has been a consistent thing with this run, is that it is so dense and like almost intentionally complex and confusing at points that it's very easy not to take information in that sticks until the next issue. Because it cut to Wally and I'm like, okay, I get that he's here. I know this is a place he's been going. I remember these plot beats. The stuff that I remember is the emotional, like, character interaction beats. It's the stuff like how Wally and Linda are doing. It's just how the kids are doing. It's the, you know, Jay's mysterious interaction with this Pilgrim character, and Pilgrim's talking about all this stuff with Max and Bart. But it's the bigger concepts when they start talking about arc-angles, different frequencies. This is the place that time forgot, and whoever this wispy character is that Wally's talking to. I'm like, I don't remember who this is. I assume she showed up at the end of the last issue, but I don't remember her.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, is this what the arc-angles look like? Because we haven't seen them yet. And then he starts freaking out, and you turn the page, and there's nothing there, except unless it's that big obelisk. Yeah, an obelisk, like the big statue that looks like an obelisk.
I think it's a statue, but it's also this thing where, which is also very angel-shaped if you look at it. Like it's got like sort of angel wings. But keep in mind, we also have the silence as well in this book. We've got you know those big Power Ranger-looking like metaphysical beings. Yeah. There was points in this issue where Pilgrim is just throwing out sciencey words. Like, the best I can describe him, like he's talking about where he got data from, is a conscious hypergeometry's cosmological abstractions so complex that they become irreduplicably simple. God damn it! Like irreducibly. Thank you.
There you go.
But look at all those words back to back. Yeah. That paragraph is designed to be as confusing as humanly possible.
For sure. And you have to read it 3 times to understand what he's trying to get at. You know, I feel like I'm reading a physics textbook sometimes.
Yeah, and I do think it is it's a mark against the book at times. It's the part that makes it tougher to read. I'm kind of enjoying the run because I'm enjoying the big ideas that he's hitting at. I've been enjoying the art, which I do miss a regular artist on this issue. The art's not bad, but
it's just not Deodato.
It's a completely different style, and I get that it is focusing mainly on like other characters this issue, so you could argue that's why it sort of makes sense to have a fill-in artist in this one. but I was missing we've had that typical grid layout with the extra like bits going overlapping at the edge of the page and all that. That stuff's been really consistent throughout this run. This is the first issue that's not had that, and it felt like a really normal looking book, which stuck out versus what we've had up until now.
Yeah, I will say though, like that page that you were just talking about, when Pilgrim gets up to that wall or whatever, and just the way that the right angles hit and the way that he kind of, it's almost like there's interference going on. Like he's being like
that panel is definitely interesting. I mean, from an art style perspective, but I think what I'm talking about is the layouts. Like the layouts. I mean, I do like the line work and the regular artists as well, but the layouts are the thing that really feel a lot more normal in this. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It makes that really stick out when you finally get to that page of Pilgrim doing that, and it's all completely wonky. And then when you turn back, and it starts to get more like the Deodato stuff. Right, so I feel like he almost lulls you into a false sense of security in this, and then it all picks up. Because who's the artist on this one?
I had up a second ago. I can tell you it is
Ramon Perez.
Ramon Perez, yeah.
Yeah, so you can tell that he's trying to get it in line with what Deodato's been doing, especially by the end here, when all of those like all the panels get cut off there towards the bottom when the police arrive, and it's very reminiscent of Deodato. So,
when you say police, you mean all of the robots that are working with
Pilgrim.
Pilgrim, yeah.
Yeah, the time cops, the time police, if you will.
Yes. Just to be clear, because I don't think if someone hasn't read this, they won't get what you meant by that.
Yeah. The other thing that I really like that Spurrier's doing is the interactions between all the characters. So, like, a lot of the Max and Bart stuff at the beginning, I thought was really good, because they are talking about these, kind of almost philosophical things, and we get Max, reiterating where he stands in the Speed Force of, the universe will provide, and I like how that all plays out over the course of the issue, because we get these two that are very familiar with each other, with Pilgrim, who's familiar with them, but they're not familiar with him. So just the way that Spurrier, weaves in the character work, it's really fun to read when you're not reading those big abstract words.
Yeah. Even the fact that Pilgrim, as it reveals and the characters kind of realize by the end, this wasn't just a rescue. He was also here to kind of arrest them and sort of trap them, because this is what he's doing to try to save the world and the Speed Force and all that. But as he traps them, he says, "We just got to have faith that the universe provides." He basically quotes Max, and it's not because he was in the scene with them earlier. It kind of implies that he's also heard Max give these speeches, over his life. So those details are nice. It is definitely like, I don't think because this book has jumped around some of the different characters anyway, I don't think just focusing on characters that aren't Wally justifies the different artists anyway. But it might have been nice if the last couple of pages, when it goes back to Wally, like if Deodato could have just done those two, just to make it feel like, okay, we're back to Wally, so we're back to the regular visual style. But it is what it is. We have fill-in artists. We have to just kind of deal with it. Hopefully, Deodato's back on the next one. So it's dealing with big-headed concepts. I feel like sometimes I need to reread like bubbles left and right. This by far took the longest to read of any of my books, because I had to like really focus, read an explanation 2 or 3 times to let it sink in and try and understand what the hell they're saying. So it's probably the book's biggest fault, because there's definitely ways you could get across these ideas and topics without making it so wordy at times. But
it's almost like Spurrier's getting paid by the word, so he's gotta really make it flowery to make it worth his time, which I don't think he does, because again, I'm enjoying the themes and the character interactions. It's just when we get to that exposition-y stuff, it's hard not to tune it out, but I feel like it's very important too. So
arguably there's maybe just 1 or 2 layers too many as well to everything going on, with the stillness, and then the vanishing point, and the
and don't forget the Crown of Thorns.
The Crown of Thorns, yes. Which was a fun reveal last issue, don't get me wrong, but Yeah.
And that's who I'm assuming is poisoning Barry's mind. Is Thawne,
Yeah, that would make some sense.
He's running interference to stop them from doing whatever. So, but yeah, it's this book is still a lot of fun. I do also like the cosmic horror aspect, like of what are these arc angles? They're stuff that we're not meant to see.
I like the feeling of the arc angles and how they talk about them as if they're this unknown thing we can't comprehend that is like interfering. Like that does give a bit of a vibe to it, which I quite like.
Yeah.
But this run can definitely be bumpy at times, and this was maybe one of the bumpier issues in some ways. Because the first issue with Pilgrim, where he shows up at the school and talks to Jay, that may have been my favorite issue of the run so far. So clearly, these characters and ideas are working, and I think I like the overall thing that he's doing with them. But there's definitely some kinks along the way that are.
It will be a run that I don't forget that we read, right? So when we talk about Spurrier's run on the Flash, his opening one, we're like, oh yeah, it was the super sci-fi heady, big wordy stuff.
You say opening, this could be his entire 50-issue run.
Let's hope not, because again, he's really good with the character stuff. I want to get back to the Flash being a family. All right, like that's the part of the Flash that I love. also the rogues. Like I don't want cosmic horror-y entities with the Speed Force the whole time.
I mean, we're already on issue 7 here. Like, so it's not like it's a 6-issue arc. Like I think he's at least going to 12 with this stuff.
Let's do 12 and then we move on. then we go to Gorilla City. Where we got to help them with something.
I don't know if Spurrier's interested in giving you the light, fun tale you're looking for, Matt. I think he wants to do big, heavy ideas.
All right, well then give him a Green Lantern book. I need my Flash to be light and fun.
I don't necessarily. I mean,
not when I say light and fun, because Johns' run did get heavy, and so did Wade's. It gets heavy in points, but this is a lot. But it's fun to read. I'm never upset when I read it. It wasn't like in we had the same kind of take on those early issues of Superman Lost, where it felt like we were just reading a physics book. But I want to come back to this through 7 issues, right? Like, I'm very interested in what's going on still.
Yeah,
it's just getting through
I'm
that.
more hooked in the overall plot of this than I ever was in Superman Lost.
Yep. So it just shows you what Spurrier's capable of here with all of it. But yeah, Wally's freaking out. I do appreciate that. He's in the same mind space as we are.
Yeah. All right, what are you rating the Flash issue 7?
I'm gonna give us a 8.
I was 7. I think the art change and some of the big clunkier ideas. I'm going to have to go down to a 7, but I'm still enjoying the run. It's definitely got its quirks. All right, Green Arrow issue 10, Legacy number 343. Joshua Williamson writing with Sean Isaacs on the art. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, so this opens up in the snow area, like the Arctic. It shows that
on Earth.
Ollie has on Earth.
I know that place.
Yes, it's where there's bears. The Antarctic means no bears, just so you know. The Waller sending him because she sent her own team to find this, whatever they're looking for, which we know is Sanctuary at this point. And so it picks up with Ollie accepting the job, and him and Connor Hawk are on snowmobiles heading to the where Sanctuary is. We get a brief take on what Sanctuary was, which was the whole let's get rid of the trauma of being a superhero, and that can't possibly end up wrong. And it talks about how Roy had died, but being that they're part of the Arrow family, no one's ever truly dead. And so we get a quick 1-page kind of origin between Ollie and Roy, which is nice. Because we get to see all the different iterations that Roy's had since becoming Ollie's sidekick and partner.
Here's how Roy has been a failure at different stages in his life.
That's kind of the undertone, because they got him as Speedy, and then they got him as the first version of Arsenal, and then as Red Arrow, and then they even got him with the Red Hood and the Outlaws, right? Starfire's there with Jason, and then we got him.
Yeah, I was just saying he wasn't on that team, but he was in New 52 in the first version. That's right. That's right.
So, so they come up on this big. It almost looks like kind of like the Fortress of Solitude, but it's got this big, blast door on it. When I say fortress, it's not all crystals or anything, but it's like this big mountain fortress. And when they get there, they notice that it's a little bit too quiet, and Connor and Ollie realize they stepped into a trap. And it is Emmy, Red Canary, Red Canary, and Arrowette. And this is the team that Roy had put together to come and do this mission. We get a quick overview on each of them in case the people aren't aware, right? So Arrowette is, she was on Young Justice. She was their archer. Ollie mentions that she's kind of a long distance type person as being an Olympian. So she's almost their sniper. Then there's Red Arrow, which is, Ollie's little sister from, her dad, or from their dad. And then Red Canary, which is a kid. I feel like Williamson is, being the creator, still not giving Red Canary a lot to show, because even Ollie's like, yeah, Dinah filled me in on the new kid. She popped up when the world thought I was dead. She might be green, but if Dinah vouches, you're good in my book. So still not a lot of development for Red Canary, all things considered. And Ollie's like, yeah, we got them outnumbered, or they've got us outnumbered. But now that the element of surprise is over, we can. And also Mia's there, who was his second Speedy after Roy left, from the 90s era, who she hits him with like an electric arrow. We get a quick overview on her origin, and they end up hugging. So this was all, again, another part of Ollie to get his family together while he can. And Arrowette is wondering, like, why would Waller get all of these Arrow characters together and to put, the Suicide Squad, special in their neck. And Ollie's like, well, it's clearly because they need me, and the only way to get me to do stuff is through my family. And so the only way that the store would open is through his handprint, because he's a member of the Justice League, right? Which still doesn't make sense because Roy got in. You find out that he had gone in and hasn't come back out. But I guess he was a member of the Justice League at points over time.
I mean,
so it depends on which timeline.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when he was like a Justice League member and not just a Titans member. But fair enough.
There was during the James Robinson run during Cry for Justice, where he was. That's where he lost his arm originally.
That's going way back.
Yeah. So, they get into the facility. Ollie makes everybody stay outside. And there is a fun joke where Connor questions Emmy. He goes, "Are you like my step aunt or whatever?" And there's a fun little light moment. But they get into this facility, and Sanctuary pops up on the screen. And as Ollie's trying to shut it all down, Roy pops back up. Because don't forget about the thing about Sanctuary was it was almost like the Danger Room for them to go through their trauma. So they would use like this hard light technology. Essentially, they were fighting holograms. And so Roy thinks that Ollie is a piece of the Sanctuary program, so they just start fighting.
But for some reason, I thought you were going to say that Roy thinks Ollie's a piece of shit.
Well, that too. That comes out a little bit. And Ollie's trying to prove that he's really him. And as Roy has an arrow drawn at him and says, this is a trick. You've been missing for months. How do I know you're the real you? And all Ollie says is, because you're my son, which then leads them to hug. So again, a lot of Ollie hugging people. And they end up not reminiscing. They end up going like, well, there's something else. Why why are you here? And you find out that that Waller got Roy to work for her because she has Jade, who's Cheshire, right? Who's his baby mama. And so I still don't understand, because their relationship is difficult at best, that why Roy would put himself on the line to go through all of this stuff again. And Roy questions Ollie's help there, and he says that he's here to find out what Waller knows out. He's playing the long game. And as they are talking, the alarm goes off, and Sanctuary's gone into like defense mode, and it sends constructs of the Justice League after them. And so the next issue is going to be Green Arrow versus the Justice League. And yeah, they look very much like the 90s era that when Ollie was missing. So we got the regular looking Aquaman without the beard and long hair, kind of like the 60s, with Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and of course Wally West Flash. So
wait, but yeah. Aquaman's not got the hook?
Nope, no hook. It's a very weird. Yeah, it's before all that. It's before the Peter David stuff. That was Peter David, right? Yeah. Before the hook and the beard and the long hair. So It's definitely a different era. I
mean, when I think of 90s Justice League, it's Aquaman with a hook and the beard.
Right. But everyone else has that 90s vibe to him. So we're getting Green Arrow versus the Justice League. So I saw someone say that this book's just a whole lot of fun, and I don't know what their version of fun is. Because
why are you still reading it?
Because I got to know this might be the last. I really don't care about Green Arrow versus the Justice League. So depending on next week, if it's on another slower week, or next week, please don't make this weekly. Hopefully next month, if it's on a slower week, I still might give in. But there are some nice moments, like him reconnecting with all the Arrow characters. But like, is that just me hitting the nostalgia? Like seeing Emmy pop back up with them, right? And then mentioning Arrow Wet, and then Mia Jordan, that version of Speedy. It's kind of Williamson just doing Green Arrow member berries, and it works on me because it's filled with nice moments, but that's kind of all the substance has been the last couple issues. So the onomatopoeia stuff was fun from a couple issues ago, but other than that, yeah, it's not even rough. It's just irremarkable. Like, this feels like half an issue's worth of content that we're just, getting the Izaakse art for, which the art looks great. Like, the fight scenes are nice. All his character designs are fine. The layouts are probably the strongest part of his art at this point. But he's having to just redo a lot of these history, right? So, like, not only in this issue did we get little blurbs on each of the female Arrow characters, we got one for Roy, and then we got one for Mia. And those were whole pages. So it's, again, a whole lot of style and not a lot of substance. And I will rate this a 6.
Yeah, so it sounds hollow from what you were getting at there. All right, The Penguin, issue 8, Tom King writing with Rafael de Latorre on the art. So obviously Penguin's back in Gotham. We're back to the present day. Although there is a little tease at the start of the issue for a crime scene that is coming 6 months from when most of this story's taking place. I don't remember what the time jump was when they gave us that bit at the start with Batman and the Batwing with Penguin, if it's around the same time or not. I don't remember if that was also 6 months.
I feel like it's got to be around that because that's the end game of Penguin's thing, right?
You would assume so. Yeah. But this scene is Jim Gordon arriving at this crime scene with another cop, which Gordon's not actually a cop in current continuity DC, so I don't know if it's because that's changing soon, and this is like a hint that that's changing soon,
right?
Or if it's just kind of like a more of a vague kind of bit of time. So yeah, but there's tons of dead bodies, including most of the 4th of July. All but one of them are amongst these dead bodies in this apartment building. There's just dead bodies everywhere. There's people who worked for the Penguin siblings or the Sibs, as they're called a couple times in this issue. So you got the Sibs, you got a lot of their people, you got the 4th of July, and it's like, okay, what the hell happened here? What's going on? Gordon is narrating here, because obviously this whole thing's always been like the narration from everyone except Penguin, but Penguin's not even in this scene. This is all kind of separate from that, which is kind of interesting. But Gordon is telling this really pessimistic story about how he used to respect his grandfather, who was a cleaner in the courthouse, and he kind of respected him, but the grandfather was like, don't see respect in this, they'll just cover it in shit again by tomorrow. And it's this idea that cleaning up Gotham is this impossible, never-ending task because more bad stuff will keep coming.
It's a Sisyphean task, and it takes a special kind of people to want to change that.
Yeah, but then we go 6 months earlier, and this is like Penguin seemingly renting an apartment. The realtor's trying to like, and it's all the realtor's narration as well, where he's basically saying, yeah, this place is kind of a dump because there's this horrible smell of cod from this factory that's nearby, and there's all these other problems with it, but it's a good price. So you get all this sort of like almost POV of Penguin looking in this empty room, and then you get this big full page spread of Penguin looking out the window on the next page. There's a lot of this issue is like just random people in Gotham realizing Penguin's back and then being scared shitless that he might kill them. That's like
I do love that King's vibe for Penguin is that it's almost worse than Joker, right? Like when we've seen him writing the Joker, it's, you know, people get afraid. There seems to be something different though with the Penguin reaction. It almost stops them in their tracks more than just Joker.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think Joker would stop them in their tracks. I think what's different is that Penguin still operates like a regular person. He still, you know, goes up to a hot dog stand and is pretending that he's a part of society. He's very dangerous, but he's very dangerous in like a sort of, oh, you don't mess with the crime boss that's, you know, coming over. Make sure you're nice to him because he will just snap and kill you. And, you know, this guy in the park, whose dog goes up to him, seemingly might get killed. If not by Penguin himself, but maybe by someone he sends after him.
I love that when he goes, why would I kill your dog? He's like, oh, no, well, you know, he's a good dog. What else would that be? He goes, are you going to kill me then? And he goes, oh, I suppose not. I just got to town. There's a ton to get done. I can't kill you, but I'll probably have someone else do it. That is chilling. Yeah,
it's practically dark comedy, to be honest. Yeah. I got a bit of a chuckle at that. And one of the big things in the first half of this issue is there's like, you know, Penguin's being watched and like, oh, he's being bold because he's walking down the street with no security, no bodyguards, and a hitman comes up behind him with a gun, and then the hitman's like taken out with a sniper in the next page, and it's like, no, he has protection. They're just keeping their distance. They're just kind of. I think later on, it's because it's the end of the issue when it's Batman's narration coming in, and he's watching Penguin. He's like, oh no, the 4th of July are all around them, but they're keeping their distance. And he's like, oh, there's 2 snipers up here, there's 2 snipers there. Like, he knows where they all are because he's Batman and he's better than, you know, these amateurs who are following them.
Yeah, I love that too, because that page where that reveals is him pulling the Penguin up, where, you know, out of the reach of his security. And just the way that happens,
it's funny.
Because the Penguin disappears into frame and the frame stays the same. So great art at work there.
Yeah, and obviously there's one person Batman didn't account for, because we see, you know, at the end that the Help actually does have Batman in his sights. Like they had planned for this. Help is up on a rooftop somewhere watching the skyline. So, you know, it's showing that, you know, the Help might be the one extra element that might give Penguin a chance against whatever he's doing with Batman, you know?
Yeah, and there's a resentment towards Batman from the Help, right? Almost like a begrudging respect, because he says, you know, he calls him the demon's favorite son, dead at the hands of his greatest disappointment. The old man would be furious, probably tear his goatee off. So I do like that he's like, you know, there's that tie to Ra's and kind of this, why is he Raz's favorite guy? What did I do so wrong? That plays off of the Help.
Yeah, big scene in the middle is Penguin meeting Riddler, and I appreciate what he did with the narration here on concept. It got a little annoying by the end, but I did appreciate this idea that all Riddler's doing in his head is saying riddles to himself that are basically bad jokes, and some of them are like really like I've heard some of these before. Like, these are not like super original.
Some of them are popsicle. Like back in the 90s, we had these popsicles that had these like riddles and jokes on them. A lot of them are here. Like, what gets wetter as it dries, right? And it's a towel.
Yeah. The worst one,
kind of
the very worst one might be the last one, I think it is, which is which word becomes shorter when you add 2 letters to it. Short.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's terrible.
Which is not wrong. It's just a fact.
Yeah, but it's not funny. It's not like an interesting riddle. It's just terrible. But I mean,
it definitely shows King's take on Riddler is that his mind is constantly going, right? It's almost like he's, and that's kind of why he's not, Luthor or Michael Holt. It's because he almost has this obsessive compulsive thing to tell himself riddles.
Yeah, the big thing with this meeting is that Riddler's like, hey, we all know you talked to Batman, you're probably responsible for half the times I went to Arkham, and then when Penguin kind of snaps later on, he kind of whispers in his ear, oh, it was more than half. But he's like, you're smarter than me, and yet everyone thinks you're a joke. And, Penguin's quite smug in this scene. It eventually does kick Riddler when he's down, and basically wants Riddler to pass on a message to his kids. That he's going to kill them, and he's going to kill them painfully. So he's using Riddler as something of a messenger here. It's good stuff. I mean, it's probably my least favorite scene in the issue, just because it does go on for it's like 4 or 5 pages. It's the longest scene probably, and the gag with Riddler is maybe a little old, and it's I think there's so many great scenes in this. Not just this issue, but this book in general since it started, where it does such a great job of doing that thing where you're like, okay, Penguin's up to something in this scene, and then over the course of the scene, you get what the point of the scene is for him, like what the plan is, like how he's orchestrating something to help. And that was so much of him building the team and getting the help to like join his side. Is like, okay, in this scene, he's provoking him this way to try and get a reaction, or he's doing this, he's doing that.
Yep.
With Riddler here, it never really felt like it mattered that it was Riddler. It's just, oh, this is just someone that he can use. It never felt like important that it was Riddler.
I think it pulls on their, on their past, because this is basically a sequel to Killing Time, right? And remember that Riddler got Penguin beaten into a coma because of all of that thing that they were looking for, the big MacGuffin in Killing Time. So to me, I read this as Penguin has held a grudge on the Riddler since that time. And,
I get what you're saying. But that's not in this issue, though. That's not set up in this issue. Every other example I'm talking about, the scenes themselves are almost self-contained, where by the end of the scene, it's very fulfilling because you get what Penguin's doing in the scene. It's cool that it maybe ties back to that, but it doesn't present itself naturally in this issue the way that a lot of the other scenes do. But I mean, the scene at the end with Batman, like pulling him up out of the rooftop and getting rough with him and being super Batman-y about it, and Penguin kind of, having a bit of a smirk in his face, try to play the hand the best he can. The final scene is his daughter coming to see him, Addison, and again he's very smiley. He presents as if he's very happy to see her. And the coloring here is really good, because when she gets to kind of the she's like, oh, I know what you're up to, and she sort of says, I know you've got the help, I know you've got the expatriates, I know your wife or your ex-wife is here. And I'm going to kill them all. That panel is like, it just turns red, and like there's no coloring on her face. It's just like she's just line work, and the background's just red, and it's just like the threats coming out. And I think what's interesting about it is that it feels she's a lot like her father, where she plays it calm until the moment she sort of reveals her hand and kind of maybe not snap's maybe not the right word, but sort of lets like what she's really feeling out. And they're both smirking afterwards. They even hug each other because they've got a weird relationship. And then there's one last page in the I'll call it present day section, where Gordon's looking at a dead body with an umbrella impaled into his heart.
Yeah, and it's Aiden. It's her brother. Because I took this as this is Penguin actually choosing his successor, right? Because the way that they mirror each other on this in that page where you're talking about it ends with the red, the way that they're drinking the water, the way that they're standing at each other, is he has found a successor, and now it's going to be what part does she play in all of this?
Possibly. I would maybe argue that he'd maybe only decided that because of the threat she made. Like, it's almost like he's impressed that she's making that threat.
Yep.
Alternatively, though, he still might try and kill both of them, and we're just getting.
She just got away. Right?
Yeah, because clearly whatever's happening here is not finished. Like, we're seeing the aftermath of this massive gunfight where there's all these dead bodies, and there's a batarang in the door to imply that Batman did show up at some point, and then there's a hole in the wall leading to the outside. So, this might even directly link up to the Batplane stuff. The Batplane stuff might be like right after this, for all we can tell. No, I mean, I enjoyed this issue a lot. It has a lot of the great setup that a lot of these issues have had with the narration from someone else, and it was very interesting seeing like different people in Gotham's reaction to Penguin being back. I do think the Riddler scene's a bit weaker than most of the scenes that we've typically had in this book, but still enjoyable enough and still advancing things. And the scene with Batman's really good. Like the way I think it's so good is that it sets it up earlier because we see someone else like tailing him and thinking, oh, no one's even like protecting him. He's completely clear for the picking. But of course, he was always protected. And then later you do the exact same thing with Batman, but Batman's like, no, he's got 2 snipers here. He's got 2 snipers there. That is really good setup and payoff because it means a lot when Batman does that because you already saw someone else try to do it and fail miserably. So that's just smart writing.
Then I love their discussion on the roof too, where Batman is trying to. Bruce is going off of old, like how they used to be, right? But with the way the last arc, well, that little mini arc, the 2 issues, the flashbacks, how that ended was it's almost like Penguin had figured out who Batman is because of who paid for the bar and whatnot. And so when they get up here, it's almost like the dynamics have changed. And so when Batman tells him, I'm here to talk about the Riddler beaten half to death in an uptown restaurant. And Penguin goes about it. He goes, oh, you mean that how he fell in his chair and I tripped over him? Right. And it's almost like a Penguin gets to do whatever Penguin wants, even to Batman. And so I like how that dynamics has changed. And it's not just because he has the sniper on him, right? I feel like Penguin has this piece of knowledge that he's kept to himself to use when the time is right. I kind of like the idea of Penguin playing that card at some point and saying, I know who you are, Bruce. And then, like, as if that's going to stop him, and then Batman just grabs his arm and breaks it. like, I don't care. I'm still going to beat the shit out of you. But I do love that he feels like he has the trump card and he's got a swagger. And in the art there, just the smile on his face, he goes, it's the panel that ends with him saying, and not on my own. It is like just as the self-satisfied smirk that you're just like, if I'm Batman, I'm definitely caving his nose in, Yeah. So, but it's just fantastic stuff all the way through.
Yeah. It's just interesting as well to have Batman, but like sort of now here as a sort of prominent character because he's been kind of absent because we've been doing most like outside the city with Penguin, like building these forces up. So no, super interesting. Like you say, Penguin thinks he has a massive like advantage with maybe knowing the secret, and I suspect it's maybe not quite as powerful as he thinks it's going to be. Because Batman, well, obviously he wants to keep the secret identity. I get the impression that if push ever came to shove, he would completely sacrifice the Bruce Wayne persona if he had to, because he cares more about the mission.
Well, it's just one of these things that Penguin has been out of it for a minute too, and like. Who's to say that they would believe that Bruce Wayne is Batman after all the stuff that Bruce Wayne has been through? Right? Because he doesn't have his fortune anymore. He's not operating like he used to be. So this is kind of present day continuity. It's not that big of a deal. Bruce Wayne's not even like a top 5 member of the Gotham elite anymore. So it might have held bigger sway before. And that could also show how Penguin's how he's lost a step in all of this as well, because he held on to that one piece of information almost too long. But yeah, it's King is really good at having us get inside Penguin's head by not letting us in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's because we get everyone else's thoughts, so it makes us work hard to try and understand Penguin. So it's all told through the art. It's all told, and because you're never in there, you're always trying to interpret them the same way that the people who are talking to us are trying to interpret them. And that's what makes it so smart. Not the best issue of the book by any means. I think the first arc really stands out so far, but obviously we're just getting started on this second main arc. Obviously we had that little 2-issue flashback thing first, but this is the second real full arc that we're diving into. So
which member of the Force of July you think made it out of there?
I'd have to remember who they all are to give you a guess, Matt.
Well, you got the Major Victory guy, who's kind of the Captain America. You have Lady Liberty.
I would hope, based on what I remember, I would hope it's the one who was forced into it by the family member being threatened, as opposed to all the ones who wanted to do it for money or for something else. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if that comes into play as well. You know. Of all that, because it would make it more tragic if he's the one that doesn't make it out, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Right, so, but yeah, because I went through and looked over the bodies, and none of them really stick out as a member. So
I think that's intentional. They don't want us to be able to piece that together yet.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. But yeah, it's Tom King continues to roll, and the return to this art style as well. I'm
for sure.
Very happy to have it back.
Yeah, the art was a welcome return. And I think as well that also is explaining why we use these obscure Force of July characters, is because Tom King wanted to kill them all. So he wasn't going to be able to use it's all the characters who usually show up in the Suicide Squad, even though Suicide Squad by its nature should be characters they're willing to kill off, but obviously that's not really been that for a long ass time. But hey, all right, what are you giving the Penguin issue 8?
I mean, that's a solid 8.
Yeah, I agree. 8 out of 10. Really solid. Looking forward to seeing how he progresses this next time. So, cool. Amazon's Attack, issue 6. Josie Campbell writing with Vasco Georgiev.
Hey!
Wait, was that right?
Finally, it only took 2 issues, or 2. Only took 6 issues to get through.
I don't feel like I said it any different than the last several times, to be honest.
You didn't stumble over it this time. You said it with confidence.
Oh, all right.
So that's a big piece of it.
I'll take it, whatever. So this is the final issue of this, which does a bit of big reveals as far as what's going on and who's behind it. Obviously, the various Amazons have been getting possessed, and it turns out Asylum is, by her own words, the last true Amazon. I mean, she had an alias. She popped up in an earlier issue as as an employee at the political building or whatever it was. But she basically says that she was one of the original Amazons that were created back when the gods wanted to put the Amazons on Earth to interact with man and make man's world better, right? So they would teach them politics, warfare, art, science, leadership, whatever, right? They list a whole bunch of things. But as time went on, the men didn't like whenever they were smarter, all right? And Asylum, her whole thing is that she was wanting her sisters to fulfill their mission and therefore to basically do the thing where they pretend to be dumber, to make the men think they're smarter, to be subservient, to sort of fill their role and know their place, as she basically says that exact line at one point in this issue. Yeah. But she effectively got banished or whatever, and it was actually the old Themyscira that used to be connected. The earthquake sort of set her free, and they specifically says that she didn't cause the pool hall massacre. And I feel like that was very strategic because, Tom King clearly is going to have his own reasons for why that happened. Yeah. But we're going to say that she used the chaos that came from that to start doing a lot of the things that she's doing. And she effectively wants to get rid of the Esquisita and the Bana Magdal because she says them as fake Amazons. She thinks they're pretenders. She wants to make Amazon subservient and completely
which is the complete antithesis of what they represent for the Themyscira. So,
basically, the villain of this story ended up being a representation of like a conservative white woman who thinks, no, a woman's place isn't the home. It is to listen to her husband.
We call them trad wives, right? For traditional. And they're the ones that go, no, don't go to school. You need to be at home and have babies. Yeah. I was like, well, if that's what you want to do, cool. But you shouldn't be forcing other people to follow your role. So I thought, despite how we got there, because I didn't feel like her identity and the whole asylum and all of that was meant to be one person, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that being revealed was a bit messy. However, her mission and how she wanted to destroy the Amazons, I thought was really clever.
It was interesting. It played into some really strong themes. I think this book has been very enjoyable, but it has at times maybe over-convoluted some of its plot beats, and I think that's an example of that. But obviously all the characters kind of breaking free and shouting Shazam, shouting Wonder Girl. Not that she has to shout Wonder Girl, but just for the sequence of them all getting into action. That's like a fun moment. There's a line here that I really like in that page actually, where Nubia says, "I refuse to make myself small so I can fit into narrow minds." I thought that was a really good line actually. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, there's a big action scene obviously with Asylum's like a flaming skull at this point and it's huge.
She looks dope, right? Because she was killed. She was killed by Hercules by jamming two swords into her. So when she takes this full gigantic form, she's this flaming skeleton with two swords coming through her from her back.
Yeah, and
it looks metal.
She pulls them out and starts using them as weapons. But it's
so
it's
that was pretty cool.
And then the thing that's going on Earth is that all the people that are being controlled or working for
the apples.
Savannah's daughter. Savannah. Yeah. They're going to release all these golden apples that are going to give people give Asylum control over everyone to shape the world as she sees fit. So they give some of the golden apples to Hoppy, who lets Mary basically just jump around portal to portal, just getting the apples from every. So there's a great page where there's just portals everywhere, and the art's really cool here because they're all different angles. And it's like here's Beijing, Paris, Moscow, London, just sort of jumping around, getting all the apples from everywhere. And notably, Savannah's like, until next time, Mary. And I'm like, oh, well, good job that she's writing Shazam, because I feel like that's going to come up at some point.
Yeah. And the whole Magitech, they also use them as the henchmen. So I like that we've given names to them, Savannah's Magitech guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they have a big fight. Nubia jumps up to the big flaming skull, slams some spears into her, and kind of doesn't kill her, but sort of brings her to Sergeant Steele and Peacemaker and says, here's the culprit, here's the one who's behind all this crap. And of course Sergeant Steele's like, I don't believe you. Why would I believe you? You're a criminal. And like we don't care if you believe us, but here's the culprit. We're not going anywhere. You're not getting rid of us just because you want rid of us, just because you don't think we belong here. We're working to build a sanctuary to make peace with man's world, and women everywhere should have a better world. And they sort of show that this has had an effect, because there's this teenage girl in the crowd who had a sign saying Amazons equal hate or whatever. And then at the end, you see her with her dad, and she's put the sign in the trash because she's been inspired by the words. So simple enough message. The end of it's Nubia talking to what was the Amazon's name? Her girlfriend.
Io.
Io, thank you, yes. Which honestly, I see that name and all I can think about is the I/O on a computer, on-off switch. Yeah. But yeah, it's basically hey, everyone's better off. We've kind of solved this, and everyone's happy. I think I really enjoyed the character interactions. I think what this book did more than anything else, though, maybe less so a coherent 6-issue, really satisfying narrative. It was fun at parts, and I liked obviously a lot of the themes that the villain's motives at the end brought up. But for me, this was an issue where I got a really cool team up, or I say issue, a series. A really cool issue where Mary and Cassie and Yara were teaming up. I got a really cool issue that made me really, really appreciate and like Nubia, a character who I've barely kind of interacted with. And then all these themes at the end I thought were fun. Not the best issue in the 6 issues,
No.
but I think it was a solid issue.
Yeah. So do you remember the Queen of the Bana Migdal? Do you remember her name?
Baruka.
Ah, we got it.
It took me 6 issues.
Yes, we got it. Cool. Good. Yeah, I was worried that they were going to try to make her the bad guy because I love the idea of the Bana Migdal accepting new Amazons, right? And that makes them different.
Which is something Asylum does not like. How dare you let in any new people? Like, that's not. That's a no-no.
That went against there because she's almost like, again, she's a trad wife. She wants the old ways of things, and the old ways are only the Amazonian way. Of Themyscira and Paradise Island. So, of course. But so the fact that she was taken over by Asylum, I bullet dodged there.
And the part I kind of glossed over because I kind of forgot about it. Because I realized as I was describing things, it sounded kind of contradicting. Because I said, she wants everyone to be subservient, but then also wants the Amazons to then be separated again and not... Because she doesn't like that Nubia wants to intermingle Amazons with the rest of the world. The reason why both of those things are true is because when she realized that the Amazons wouldn't be subservient, she decided the best course of action was to completely separate all the Amazons off so that they wouldn't...
To seal them.
Mess with man's world. So that was kind of her goal ultimately in the end. But obviously, which is why I think Nubia's line, "I will not make myself small to fit into a narrow mind." I thought that was a very poignant line that kind of explains the themes better than I think you could with any analysis. And good.
Yeah. I also, too, when we get a bit into her backstory, she talks about, we weren't supposed to have favorite goddesses, but she liked Hestia, goddess of the hearth, which is the kind of the homemaker deity in Greek mythology.
Yeah. This is Asylum.
That was another nice, that was Asylum, which was another nice layer to her. It's kind of just who she was. It's not like her experience totally formed her, but it did push her over the edge. But she was kind of always this person that had believed in this version of the Amazons, and Hercules just set it free. So I do like that it wasn't just a trauma thing that made her that way. A lot of fun. A little disappointed that this is the last issue. I thought this could have been a second ongoing for Wonder Woman where we get other tales of the Amazons. I
don't think it was ever planned as that. So at least it got its 6 issues, and we at least know Campbell's moving on to another book, and we're going to get more Mary in there. So who knows? Maybe we'll get another Wonder Woman mini, or I say Wonder Woman, I mean like a separate from Diana, something like this again down the line. I don't know. We'll see. But the art was very consistent again. I think it does a good job with the performances. Steel gritting his teeth when he doesn't want to believe them is entertaining, or his raised eyebrow when they bring up the rabbit.
Yeah. I do love the continuity of just the Wonder Crew making him look like a fool, whether it's Diana or these guys. Just constantly, he can't get out of his own way. So I do love that. That's pretty.
Well, he's an ass, so it's fun to watch him be made to feel like an ass.
I know you're not that familiar with Dukes of Hazzard, but it was kind of like the sheriff on Dukes of Hazzard, where he's his own worst enemy because of that. And that's how Sergeant Seal feels.
I didn't realize you were that much older than me, Matt, but all right.
I'm not that much older, but it was on TV when I was growing up.
All right.
You like to watch the card jump every time.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Old man Matt here watching Lassie and Dukes of Hazzard.
You know what? I did enjoy Lassie because it was on Nickelodeon. It was just with all the Nickelodeon cartoons, having Lassie on was like this nice, calm, type part of the afternoon. So yes.
All right. Yeah. I ain't judging. So cool. There's a fun little bit actually inside Yara's head where the other possessed characters are sort of like telling her to give in and let Asylum take over. And there's a nice moment at the end of that page where like her eyes snap open as if to say, "F this."
Yeah.
Like, you ain't taking me over.
Because she is the most defiant of them. That's kind of her character, and that's what we all loved about her when she was introduced. So, the fact that we get to see her inner struggle with it, that was a nice touch.
Yeah. So, good stuff. What are you giving Amazon's Attack issue 6?
I'll give this 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. I think the sudden like, oh, Asylum is just one person kind of
Yeah.
as a bit of a throwing it off, but I liked everything it did with it after that though.
Me too.
So yeah, all right. Okay, Power Girl issue 7, Leah Williams with Marguerite Sauvage on the art. Take it away, Matt.
So this starts off with like storybook pages, because where it left off was Paige and Kara were stuck in this fantasy style world where they don't have powers. So this brings us up to where we're at. And this is, I gotta give Sauvage credit here, because just shifting from the traditional style of art to the storybook style to the cartoon is a pretty good skill for storytelling. But it tells the story of once upon a time, there was a little girl who wasn't very nice, and it shows her birding bugs with a magnifying glass. And she ends up being Avis Stanislava, and she basically ends up becoming like insect queen. So she gets so into bugs, and she wants to know how they work and how they interact, that she starts trying to use that technology of like pheromones and what else does they say here? Their own chemical potions inspired by ants and wasps in order to commit crimes, which leads her up against Superman. So we get this real cool like silhouette of Superman. And it shows what led us here, and it reminds us of the Streaky issue, because this is who Streaky was taking down with all the animal the animal experimentation. And it shows her leaving the planet in a ship and coming across this realm, being pulled through a portal, where she comes across the Queen Adoris, who is what's known as a fractal witch. And it tells us this place is called Farimbia, and that Avis ends up putting this crown on the queen, which gives her full control of the kingdom over the queen. And she's been, the queen's been in like a sleep, like Sleeping Beauty, and she's been acting in her stead. And then it leads to, she imprisons all of the people of this world in order to do her bidding. So they started to need more. And so they came to our planet our realm to start taking them. And that leads us to Paige and Kara running through the city. And they're like, we've been through it. We've been walking for 2 hours. There's nobody. Which leads to people with slingshots shooting them with rocks. And they end up being taken into like this little side door where there's this, she kind of looks like, you remember Blue Devil from DC?
Yeah, he popped up in Swamp Thing.
Yeah, so she's purple. She has the same kind of horns. She has this long tail. So she's like this devil lady, and she has all the kids of Farimbia. And so when Avis had taken the adults, it had left all these children. And so she didn't fall for it. And her name is I'm gonna struggle with this one. Epione or Epione. In that, she's the one that's
taking care of
these
Italian
kids.
accent, Matt. It'll sound right.
Epione. Okay.
Yeah, see, easy.
And now it sounds like I'm being racist, and I don't like it.
Papa de Poopy.
Yeah, they also say like with Japanese words. So I learned this with gorilla, right? Because Godzilla is a smashing of words that means gorilla whale in Japanese. So I was like, oh, what's the Japanese word for gorilla? And it's gorira. And it sounds like you're being racist, and I don't like it, I mean,
if that's the word, that's the word. I mean, that's the...
Yeah, but it sounds like you're doing a bad accent for a joke. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the thing about different languages, though, is that like people who learn to speak French, you have to learn to make the noises they make, because you can't say the words without the noises. Yeah. I'm sure there's some similar words in Japanese that are the same.
Yeah. So, anyways, she brings up, that now we have 2 more people that can help, because I have 2 adults, and come along and we'll get you suited up. And so this ends up being Paige and Kara doing a Dungeons and Dragons run. So Paige ends up dressing like a rogue. So she's in kind of tight fitting, almost like pirate garb with knives. And they put Kara in a full suit of armor, right? She's got a cape. It looks great. So they end up making friends with some of the kids. There's a stuff called Pelk that comes from these creatures called Mudrin, which nothing makes sense because these are avian creatures. They look like big, like feathered hippopotamus with these wings. It doesn't look like they should be able to fly, but magic and whatnot. And it says Kara's like, how are they doing this? How can they make milk if they're birds? And they're like, well, don't think about it. They end up storming the castle. They reveal that Avis has gotten these two twins from their realm, who she calls Tragedy and Comedy. They're the ones that were wearing those masks. So they end up storming the castle. They take out, as they're going through the plan is supposed to be that Paige is going to sneak in and that Kara's going to play backup, except Paige decides to grab the attention of everybody by just yelling, "Hey, idiots," and running in Leroy Jenkins style. And they end up getting up to the queen, taking the crown off of her, which allows her to banish Avis from the realm, where the queen now has made Paige and Kara both protectors of Farimbia. And, so that basically anytime they need help, they'll reach out. And she gives them these amulets that'll allow them to go back and forth. So very, very light style of book coming from what we were just doing. And it doesn't feel like there's been a lot of flow between the arcs, because we were doing alien stuff and Brainiac stuff, and now we did the Streaky story that led into this, and now we're leading straight into more Brainiac. So I'm glad that Leah Williams is seemingly doing what she wants, and I still love her voice for the Supergirls, for both Paige and Kara. This was just a weird two issue arc that led to some really weird stuff, some really weird fantasy elements. But we did get Paige as a rogue going through with her knives. While Kara is trying to be the that knight character, the holder of the House of L, kind of. So, but yeah, Sauvage's art, how it jumps from that storybook style to the more cartoony in Farimbia, it is nice, but some of the proportions are off. Just the way that the layouts go is a little bit messy at times. So yeah, I will give this let's go 6.5.
Okay. And then you're up again because you went back and read Ape-ril Special issue 1. I assume it's various creators on this because it's an anthology.
Yeah, so there's 3 main stories, and the biggest one is called Planet of the Apes, or A Rise of Battle for an Eventual Contest of the Legion of Right, so there's a lot of silly
rolls
puns.
Off the tongue, Matt. That's an excellent title.
Right, and this is John Layman and Carl Mostert. So John Layman on the writing, Carl Mostert doing the art. And essentially it starts off with Mala creating his own Legion of Doom out of gorillas, and they're calling them the Legion of Not doing that anymore, so I'll just call them the Gorilla Legion from here on out. But he's got a Silverback, who's a full-on mechanized gorilla. You got Ultra Humanite. You got Jackanapes and Titano. And essentially, Mala is like, hey, with Grodd not here because he's locked up, and it mentions the stuff that has happened in Flash, that, this place is ripe for the picking, so they can't stop us all. And they introduce, unless this has been a pre-established character, this monkey named Eek-Gore, so like Eek, like a monkey says, and Gore, who is kind of like this henchman scientist. He even has a hump on his back, and that he's been studying magic. And Mala asks, which book, and he pulls out the Monkey Nomicon. So it looks like the Necrocomicon from Evil Dead, but it has an evil ape face on it. And that's where it ends the prologue. And the story jumps into Sam Simeon in Bloodhaven looking for this. They were transporting some monkeys in between a zoo, and someone hit the transport van and took the monkeys. As he's investigating, he comes across Bobo, so he runs into Detective Chimp.
I was going to say, if this story revolves around monkeys, then it's not quite right, because monkeys aren't apes. Just put that out there.
And they mention that numerous times about the tail, because they'll call one of them a monkey, and then they'll make that comment. And so they start, Chimp is like, well, this could just be like animal activist stuff, freeing these monkeys. And Sam's like, I don't know, this feels bigger. And as he says that, Monkey Prince pops in, and he's missing an arm. And he says that he got jumped by someone. He knows it was a gorilla because gorilla fur, he goes, no offense, gets pungent when it's wet, and it's raining in Bloodhaven at the time. And he says that he was really strong, and he ripped off his arm and beat him with it. And you see in the art that it's Malak because he's wearing the beret in the silhouette. And then when he mentions that he had a French accent, Sam and Bobo realize. So as they decide to get together, that they're going to go find Mala, a wall next to them completely falls apart, and Titano standing over him, but he's bigger than he has been before. So they end up fighting with him, and then the Guerrilla Legion shows up, and they're a lot faster and they're a lot stronger than they've been before, right? So Bobo mentions this, so he goes, okay, it looks like Bobo is running, but turns out he was getting some help, and Gleek and Beppo end up coming.
DC has a lot of ape and monkey characters.
They do, right?
That? Like, it's dawning on me as you're just listing groups and names left and right.
In fact, they make their own JLA. Do you want to guess what it stands for?
Justice League of Apes.
Nope.
No?
It's the Jungle League of America.
Okay, that's better. That's better. Right? I'll give them that.
So they end up fighting these guys. Titano keeps getting bigger. Jackanapes keeps getting faster. Ultra Humanite is being able to use full-on telekinesis.
Oh, question.
Yes.
Does America have any jungles?
No. This is why the name's silly.
Okay.
Much like the rest of the story.
South America obviously does, but...
Yes, South America, Central America definitely have those types of rainforest jungles. We have more deciduous forests, so, it's not so much
just check it, so...
Yeah. So, they have their hands full, and it's Sam ends up tailing Mala into this warehouse. And when they get in there, there's all the missing monkeys, and they're all missing at least an arm, right? And Igor's there, and he is doing this ritual where he's taking a monkey's arm and basically making these wishes. Like, so he says here that he, make Titano 20 feet taller. And by feet, he means the empirical unit of measurement, and not this and not that. He's being ultra specific because you find out that through this monkey Comic-Con, the Ape Necrocomicon, I'm not going to keep tripping over these things. They're essentially making monkey paws. And that's why they wanted the monkey princes. And they're able to take it, but, the fact that he can control it while being away from it made things more difficult. But Mala is like, well, this is already magic. This might be the key to doing all of this. So Sam gets the jail ape, which is a much better name, to there. And as the Guerrilla Legion is getting ready to fight them off out of the warehouse, they essentially get Mala to monologue that this was all his plan, and the Guerrilla Legion didn't realize that he was going to be hurting other creatures like them. So they end up turning on him. They leave him at the Gorilla City outskirts with a sign that says "Traitor to apes, spank this monkey." And Sam Simeon is like, pretty sure something got lost in the translation on the sign. And in the epilogue, which they call here an ape-ologue, that through Monkey Prince's magic in the book, they were able to restore all of the arms to the various monkeys. And then the Titans, because they're based out of Bloodhaven right now, the Titans show up to help.
Oh, I was thinking you meant like Kong and Godzilla and so on.
No, not those. That would have been nice. I would have, but no, the Titans with Nightwing and them, they show up to also help. And it ends with Simeon taking another case for this lady monkey who says that her ex-husband's trying to kill her. He's an organ grinder with an axe to grind. Won't you please help me? Right. And then it ends with him being in the office, like a film noir. So very, very silly stuff. Very much worth my read here. And this was the majority. And then we get two smaller stories. The next one is Josh Fialkov with art by Phil Hester. So, it comes in pretty nice. But it starts with this guy beating a man to death with a rock on the side of the road. And as he goes to drive away, he sees a hand holding out like the hitchhiker symbol. And it's Detective Chimp. And he picks him up. And Detective Chimp ends up talking to this guy. And we get a lot of the guy's inner monologue. And he is wondering, like, why this talking chimp is riding in the car, why he needs a ride, why is he going to Metropolis, and he's like, well, did he see me kill Mr. Donovan, who was the other guy in the car? Did what is going on here? And he ends up saying, like, he's gonna figure out what I did. He seems like he's like some kind of super genius because he's a talking chimp. And that's where he calls him a monkey. So there's more of that of, apes don't have tails, monkeys do. And so they stop to get food. The guy goes in and realizes that he's gonna have to take care of him just like he did Donovan. So it seems like this guy is going through some internal struggles. And when he goes to get back into the car, Bobo's already sitting in the driver's seat, confusing this guy even more. He's like, oh, so wait, he can drive now too? And this is where Bobo starts getting him off of his game, because as they start driving, he just starts asking questions. Who's Donovan? How do you know that? Oh, I found his wallet. And he's like, oh, I picked him up before you dropped him off outside of Gotham. But I was like, oh, that explains the smell. And the guy starts panicking more and more. So now it starts becoming like the Telltale Heart, where everything he says, Bobo is picking up a little more. And to the point where now he draws the gun on Bobo and says, I didn't kill him. And Bobo's like, yeah, I didn't think he was even dead. You just told me that he's dead. Would explain the smell because of the exhaust, makes it hard to tell. Makes it hard for Bobo to tell the difference between pollution and blood. And you find out that this man's name is Doug. And he goes, you're fine. We'll get out of here. No one's ever going to believe this happened because you're talking to a talking chimp, right? So let's just get you here. Well, Doug, I know where we'll go. We'll get you some help. So he ends up taking him into like a sheriff's office along the road. And he goes, it's what I do. I help people that are in need. Sometimes it's easier to understand something that, it's easier to understand from this point of view. And Doug's like, oh, so like, what, are you a superhero? And he goes, no, nothing like that. Nothing at all. And then it just ends with the guy surrendering himself into the sheriff's office, So basically, Bobo, through his powers of deduction, got this guy to turn himself in without a punch thrown, without anything. And so that story was called Detour. And I think it's one of the stronger stories I've read with Detective Chimp, just because it really got into the detective aspect of it. And it almost felt like one of those pulpy criminal stories, from back in the day. Just it happened to have a talking Detective Chimp in there. And then the last story is called A Call to Arms, and it's Jean Luen Yang and Bernard Chang, so the team from Monkey Prince.
Okay.
And it's just it's a follow up from the first story where ever since he got his arm back from the monkey paw experiments, it hasn't been cooperating, and so it hits him in the face in the middle of class. And then it writes in his notebook as he's trying to do his geometry work. It says, "You must go stop him." So he asks if he can go to the bathroom real quick. Teacher lets him out. He transforms into Monkey Prince. His arm splits off from his body and leads him back to the warehouse where they were. And his grandpa's there, because don't forget that his grandpa was the Ultra Humanite, right? And that the Ultra Humanite has gone to eat gore. And because of his familiarity with Monkey Prince, he's able to clone the hand. And that Ultra Humanite's going to use this to essentially take over the Earth. Now he'll have infinite wishes, basically. And Monkey Prince, before he fights, he realizes that these are all his arms, so they'll have to listen to him. So he transforms them all into pieces of hair, right? And it ends up leading Igor. He ends up hitting him with a staff, knocking him down, and then he guilt trips his grandpa, going like, "I thought you wanted to be better. You're the guy that gave me my first bike. Like, what are you doing?" And that ends up making Ultra Humanite stop, and tells him, "Hey, are you guys still coming over for dinner? I'll put a pizza in the thermonuclear oven." And then it ends with Monkey Prince going through. So not the strongest of the stories, but I think it was a real fun time. And then in the back of the book, to make up pages, it's a bunch of gorilla-centric covers from old comics. So, a lot of Star-Spangled War stories and Strange Adventures, just a lot of silly stuff. So, but yeah, out of the main stories, I think I like the Detective Chimp one the most, just because of what it did with the characters. And then you could tell Layman was having a lot of fun in that other one, with the Gorilla Legion and the Jail Ape. So, but yeah, so overall, this book, though, it's not necessary, but it is a fun read, so I'll give it a 7.5.
Yeah, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmicky
Yeah.
book. It's like,
but at least with the gimmick, I don't feel like I wasted my time,
Oh, sure. I mean, you knew that going in. You'd be very surprised if it was anything, special, pardon the pun, because it's called the Ape-ril Special. All right, that'll take us out to the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5, or as close to 5 books as we can. So, Matt, what was your panel / moment of the week?
Oh man, there was one detective that I really liked, and that was with when Bruce comes out of the desert and he's wrapped in that cape. I thought that looked really cool. Flash had a couple, but those were more to do with what was being said and stuff that, like, between Max and Bart was really good. But I think mine's gonna be from Penguin, and it's when he gets pulled up by Batman. I thought that was a very well done, funny scene. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted about what you pick. I'm tempted to put that great line from Amazon's Attack. There's definitely stuff in Penguin. I think I'll probably just go with the last page of Detective, though. There's something about Batman's here. I mean, that issue actually has 2 of them, but a good Batman's showing up and you've not realized yet moment is always good. But yeah, cover of the week. Not a ton of books to pick from. There's an interesting Kelly Jones detective cover. There's a Deodato Jr. variant for Flash, which looks pretty good. My pick is probably the Dustin Nguyen Penguin variant, though, which is just black silhouette Penguin on a red background. It's very striking. It's very simple, but it definitely stuck out the most, I think, when I was looking at the covers this week.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. There's 2 that caught my eye. One of them is the W. Scott Forbes variant for Amazon's Attack, and it essentially just has all the characters from there done in that style.
I liked the art in that, but I felt like the way they all were shoved together made it look like a bit of a weird, like...
Yeah, the composition's weird, but I do like how they kind of all have dynamic poses, though.
It's the way that like the legs overlap and stuff, so it
Yeah.
kind of felt like they were all sprouting out of one body or something. That was weird.
Yeah, I could see how you think that. But the one that gets my vote this week is the Kevin Wada Power Girl cover, and it's got Paige, turning to look at the camera. You can tell like she's flying, and she's in her costume that she's been wearing. But the sky is blue, and then there's a gradient that turns it to red, so it just really makes her pop over all that. It looks really nice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Best art of the week.
Man, this one's tough for me because I mean it comes down between Penguin and Detective, and I just don't know which one to pick because I like them both for separate reasons. But if we're going for consistency's sake, it's got to be Penguin.
Yeah, I think Penguin's the one that feels that the... I mean, Detective's good. Obviously, it's bounced between the two styles, and it does make sense in the story why there's two styles. And I like the Amazon's Attack, but I think Penguin's taken it. It is the most consistent. It's got some really great sequences. I think it sticks out. All right. Top 5, Matt. Go.
All right. Number 1 is going to be Detective Comics. 2 is Penguin. 3 is Amazon. No. 3 is Flash. 4 is Amazon's Attack. And then I guess I have to do... It's Power Girl, Green Arrow, or the Ape-ril Special. They're all about even. I guess I'll do the Ape-ril Special. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, I think for me, number 1 is Detective, 2 is Penguin, 3 is Amazon's Attack, 4 is Flash, and that's all I read this week. Weird week. We're definitely in need of a new influx of new books sometime soon, so we'll see how that goes. But let's have a look and see what's coming out next week from DC Comics. We have Batman 146, Poison Ivy 21, Birds of Prey issue 8, Shazam issue 10, Blue Beetle 8, Suicide Squad Kill Arkham Asylum issue 3, Kneel Before Zod issue 4, Superman 78, The Metal Curtain issue 6, The Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries 4, Scooby-Doo Where Are You 127, and that's it. Which, interesting to put both Scooby-Doo books out in the same week. You'd think they'd want to spread them out throughout the month, but hey, who am I to judge DC's release schedule at this point? But so another kind of light week next week. I'll do my Patreon books next week to spruce things up a little bit. Plus, you'll be reading Blue Beetle and Poison Ivy, which I'm not. Yeah. So we'll have a variety of things to talk about, and we'll see how it goes. But that is pretty much the episode, guys. Obviously, you can support all the content by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there and help keep the lights on. You can obviously share the podcast, like it on YouTube, rate the audio podcast, whatever those apply to how you consume the show. Help us out in whatever way you can. But that is us, so thank you very much for joining. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
8 together strong.